All right, guys, I've been on the internet forever, so let's watch this video and see how accurate it is.
The internet is like a giant iceberg floating in the ocean. What we see on top, the part above the water, is called the surface web, sometimes also known as the visible web, indexed web, or light net. To help you visualize it, imagine walking into a huge library where every book is easy to.
And so this is this is sort of the way the internet is nowadays, especially. Before, back in the days when I was young, the internet was much more open. And if you knew where things were and you knew where to look for them because stuff wasn't indexed super well, it was really easy to find super strange corners of the internet. In fact, oh, what's that guy's name? Earth coincidence. Okay, let me show you this. This is a really good example of the weird kinds of things that you would find back in the day. This is not the website that I'm looking for. John C. Lilly, right? So, John C. Lilly was a guy back in the day who did all this research on dolphin languages and dolphin things, and he was a very strange kind of person. And if you don't know about this person, you would never find any of this, but this is going to be really strange for you. So, John C. Lilly, he did all this information, or all this research on talking to dolphins and their language, and then he also did a bunch of research into mental things, mind reading and stuff like that. So if you find his website, johnclilly.com, you'll find this website and you'll go here. And then if you go here, you can find the ECCO, which is the Earth Coincidence Control Office. And this is where stuff gets really weird. So John C. Lilly believed that the world was, that everything was being controlled by this thing called the Galactic Coincidence Control, which was within this, the Cosmic Control Center, which is this thing that is a body of government that is controlling coincidences all across the universe to make things happen the way that they need to happen, and that it's sort of like a replacement for God in some kind of way. And let's just read a little bit of this. In one's life, there can be peculiarly appropriate chains of related events that lead to consequences that are strongly desired. After such experiences, one wonders how such a series of events developed. Sometimes there is a strong feeling that some intelligence greater than ours directed the course along certain lines which is programming. Several years ago, I enunciated a format for such concatenations of events, somewhat. And then he goes on to talk about how you can become part of this Earth Coincidence Control Office by assume, simulate our existence in ECCO, which is basically saying to behave as if ECCO is real, accept your responsibility for control of your coincidences, meaning that you have to be willing to have things happen to you. You must exert your best capabilities for your survival programs and your own development as an advancing member of ECCO's Earthside Corps of Controlled Coincidence Workers, meaning that you have to use your best skills to deal with the situations that you fall into. This is baddie stuff, for sure, and I'm aware of that. I'm not saying that this is true, but this is the kind of stuff that you could just find if you knew where to look for it back in the day. This website has been here for a very long time, and the internet didn't used to just be Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok. That's not what people use. Reddit. That's not what people used to do. Websites were a place to congregate. Message boards were a place to congregate, and they were branching off paths to other directions all around the internet. The internet has become much, 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 much more tame by comparison. The darkness of things has been pushed way, 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 way further down.
Defined thanks to a well-organized index. This part of the internet works in a similar way. It's the section we all see and use daily, filled with popular websites like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit. These are the places we visit to watch.
The places we know to go to. The places that we don't have to think about going to. This is the thing about social media and the swiping aspect. If you're watching this video, you're probably somebody who goes looking for things to watch, and that's a rarity nowadays. The majority of all people who are on the internet, and now this isn't because they're gotten tired of the internet and having to look for things. This is an effect of people who were not on the internet as early as we were a lot of times, or they didn't experience the internet in the same way that we did. Older people who come from a much more normal background of joining clubs in school and doing well in school and having after school events that they went to, those kinds of things. things, people who weren't just coming home to sit on the internet all day the way that we were. They are people who just interact with the internet by just letting it show them whatever they want to be, or the internet wants to show them.
Watch videos, chat with friends, share photos, and read the news.
And that's why people
if the
come to these sites, because their brains are just programmed to come to these sites.
web is just the tip of the iceberg. What makes up the other 90% of the internet that lies beneath the surface? In the Burgy web, you stumble upon things that are not on the everyday internet. This includes sites that might be banned from your standard search results, like piracy sites, where you can watch your favorite movies or pirate your favorite games. It's also where you might find websites blocked in certain countries. For example,
this will be a fun thing. Let's think about how far down we went into the internet over the course of our lives. I don't go to piracy sites anymore. In fact, I never went to piracy sites ever in my entire life. I never used LimeWire or any of that stuff. But think about how far down you went into these things at some point in your life. You don't have to go down to them now, but just the experience that you've had. My mom has no idea that you can pirate things on the internet. She doesn't understand torrents. She doesn't understand peer-to-peer sharing. She doesn't know anything about any of that stuff. That's YouTube nothing to her. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, that's the internet to my mom.
Or if you're in a country where the image board 4chan is banned, the Burgy web is where you'll be able to find it.
4chan, dude. 4chan was so weirdly instrumental for me as a developing person. The things that I discovered from 4chan were dark and strange, but also sometimes really good.
While these sites are literally nothing compared to what we talk about later, accessing the Burgy web often involves more effort than just a simple search. You might need a specific software or know the exact web address, as these sites are not officially part of the searchable internet.
I have sticky notes that I use on my computer that have lots of direct links to things and lots of cheat codes for things, you know? And a lot of people don't interface with the internet that way, but there's so much there if you just know where to look for it, you know? I often talk about how this all isn't an accident. The forethought that goes into the experiences that we have is immense. And it's being curated for people so that they can live in a world that is isolated from the difficult things that there are to perceive. But those things are still real. And I'm not talking about supernatural things. I'm talking about real things, digital things that exist right in front of your face. I'm talking about the websites. I'm talking about the homeless people and the society that they have going on. I'm talking about the underlying infrastructures to government and the way that the bodies of government are sort of at war with each other, constantly trying to vie for power in this interesting kind of way. These things that most people don't figure or think about is purposefully obfuscated from us because it is so much easier to control people, and that's what's happening to us. We're being controlled. I'm okay with that concept. I had a friend tell me one time, he said, I get how things work, man. We have to go destroy other countries and loot their society so that I can sit here and eat Oreo cakesters. I know what's up. And that's the truth, but most people don't want to think about that because there would be this weird cognitive dissonance that would develop, which is sort of what's happened to me. But it's okay if one or two people or 1,000 or 20,000 or 1 million or 2 million do it. But when you have the whole society doing that, then you start to see the breakdown of these structures. Because people, I like to believe that people don't need to be controlled, but it has worked for a long time to control most of the people. I don't know if a lot of people are ready to step out into the light and see the things that are going on. It makes me sad when I see other people start to break down in that kind of way. I've had conversations with family members and friends that have their whole lives been everything is great and we're living in the best country in the world and I love going to work every day. I'm doing my part and blah, blah, blah. All that stuff recently have started to break down in this kind of way that I've always been, where they're like, it's just all horrible what's going on. I hate that I have to live this life for everyone else and I can't do anything that I want to do. And there's just all this horrible stuff that's going on in the world and we're sort of at the root of it. And it makes me sad kind of to see that joy leave those people. So I don't say that they're not ready to step out into the light in the way of they're just so dumb or whatever. I hate to see that joy get robbed from them of the belief in that everything is good.
For instance, unlisted YouTube videos are technically part of this space, as you can't search them up. The Burju web exists in kind of a gray area. It's not as dark or mysterious as the deeper levels of the internet, where slightly more illegal activities may occur. Now, the dark web is a mysterious and hidden part of the internet that most of us have heard of, but few truly understand. It's built on top of the regular internet we all use. To access the dark web, you need specific software, because the information and websites there are hidden and protected through encryption. This makes
So you have to be able to get keys and make direct links to different people's hosts and be able to find your information that way. I wrote a line in a song one time that was something along the lines of, like, I'm just going to paraphrase, but like, you act like you've never been sent a photo of your home address next to a link of a killer for hire on the dark web and a stack of cash. Like, you know, that's the world that does exist out there. I often think a lot of times that we're all in this big ocean of life, and we're all just sort of swimming along as these little fish, but lurking in the dark are sharks, and you don't have any idea who's a shark and who's not. This is one of the reasons that I'm so respectful to people that I don't really know that well, but you can also start to develop this ability to tell who is what based off of just how they're behaving. You know, you don't want to mess with strangers too hard. You don't want to make personal attacks against people. You don't want to incite the rage of someone who you don't know, because you don't know what they're capable of. And there are some really, really intimidating people out there that are super unassuming, dude. Do you know how many people have become extremely wealthy through their knowledge of of tech in general? The money that was made in the past decade off of cryptocurrencies is astounding. And it went to people who have a lot of knowledge of things that you can't even grasp or understand. Their ability to watch exactly what you're doing, to peek in through your webcams, to see everything that you type on your computer is through the roof. And the only reason they're not doing that is because they don't have a reason to currently. It's bizarre, dude, the things that people are capable of. That's one of the reasons that I went into software engineering and tech in general, IT in general, is because I wanted to know more so that I could be better protected against things, dude. I mean, it is nuts, the world that exists out there. And a lot of us are just swimming around with no idea that there's sharks out there, dude.
Makes it a place where anonymity is
and those people are succeeding because of their anonymity and the unawareness that they're out there.
Key feature, and it's why some people use it for privacy and others for slightly less noble activities. One of the main gateways to the dark web is through something called the Tor browser, provided by the Onion router or the Tor network. Imagine sending a letter through a maze of tunnels. Only the entrance and the exit points are known, but not the path in between. That's how Tor works to keep your internet journey almost impossible to trace, protecting your privacy with layers of encryption.
And so, I'm trying to think of how much of this I can actually say. I found out about the dark web through acquaintances that I have met over the course of my life through happenstance that I don't know very well or know anything about them, and the things that they were able to do using the dark web. And the things that they were able to get their hands on very easily, and how methodical and thought out it was. The idea that the powers that be have a lot of knowledge and understanding about what's going on in the world is an interesting fallacy to me, because it's constantly a war of a loophole is discovered, and then this guy has to close that loophole. But by the time he's closed that loophole, there's another one already discovered, maybe even multiple ones. And so it's constantly a game of catch up. The people who are breaking the rules are by nature steps ahead of the people who are trying to close the loopholes. So what's happened a lot of times is that these government defense contracts a lot of times are trying to hire people who are, you know, sometimes less than reputable or very shady people, because they're the ones who know how to do everything. I mean, if you don't know who what's his name? Is his name Gummo? That hacker? You can go watch his interview on what's that channel called? Soft White Underbelly. You can go and watch his interview on there, and that's a really good entry point to what's going on with some of this stuff. The ability to understand how things work is one that opens up a lot of gateways for you through nefarious things, but also through bettering things, because the only way to get ahead of the person who's finding those loopholes is to find those loopholes first with good intentions.
Much like an onion, despite the promise of anonymity, the dark web is not a lawless land. Law enforcement agencies are quite active in tracking illegal activities, shutting down websites, and prosecuting those involved in criminal acts. But no, merely walking into this secret room isn't illegal, but it's what you find inside that can lead you into trouble. It's like peeking into a cookie jar that contains all the illegal cookies. You're not doing anything wrong just by having a look. Now let's talk about what's actually on the dark web. It might surprise you to learn that personal information doesn't cost much there. Credit card details, online banking logins, and even accounts for services like Uber and Netflix can be bought for relatively small amounts of money. More serious items such as...
And now this is a really interesting thing. So, the people who do these kinds of things are actually pretty smart, right? And one of the best things that you can do to stop yourself from being targeted is to increase your level of understanding of what's going on. The more difficult you make it for them to get a hold of you, the less chance they have of going after you. The closer you get to being a shark, the more the sharks would rather just mess with some guppy who, when they get their bank account information, they're just... I shudder to talk about this stuff. I have a weird relationship with this stuff. I would never do it, but I don't have a lot of negative feelings about people who do it, because like when I see that a casino has been hacked and held for ransom, I think I wouldn't do that, but it's the casino's fault in my brain. That's sort of what I think. And I know that people can disagree with that. That's not the most concrete idea, but it's something that I think. And so the best thing you can do is become more like a shark. If this stuff worries you at all, if like me, you think about this kind of stuff, get closer and closer to being a shark, and then the sharks will tend to leave you alone. And there can even be a weird mutual respect there, you know?
Passports can fetch thousands of dollars, and most marketplaces are not just a free-for-all. It has its own system of ratings and reviews, much like the online shopping sites you're used to, like a far more illegal and immoral eBay or Amazon. In the same sphere of legal stuff, there are also hacking websites, which are basically websites where you can pay a guy to hack stuff for you. They claim to do things.
And I think one of the reasons that this stuff is so morally gray in my head is because of how interesting it is to me. I love the faceless men in Game of Thrones. I like their concept. And the faceless men exist in this kind of realm. If Game of Thrones was in modern day, it would be through this kind of stuff. The only problem is that when harm starts befalling large groups of innocent people, that's when you have this sort of, okay, this has immediately become a bad thing that I now super disagree with.
Things like break into people's accounts, crash websites with DDoS attacks, and even frame people by putting illegal content on their computers without them knowing. And they do all of this hiding behind the anonymity that comes with using Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, making it all feel very sneaky and underground. It's really not a good idea to get mixed up with these kind of sites. It's fine to be curious about the darker parts of the web, but actually using these services is a whole different ballgame and can land you in big trouble, both with the law and in your personal life. Then there's a whole other world of stolen bank cards and counterfeit money sites. But I'm not even gonna dive into that. They're all filled with scams and phishing traps, and honestly, they're not worth our time to talk about. There are also tons, and I mean tons, of illegal drug markets, like the extremely infamous Silk Road, for example.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, this stuff, you would be astounded with how easy it is to have large amounts of illegal substances sent to, I mean, not your house, hopefully, because that's a bad idea, but, I mean, it's all a bad idea, period. But you'd be shocked by how difficult or how easy it is to get your hands on things. Money talks. Money and knowledge, that's the the big things in this world.
Ross Ulbricht, who went by Dread Pirate Roberts online, started Silk Road as an underground marketplace on the dark web. He envisioned it as a free market experiment, pushing the limits of privacy and anonymity, utilizing Tor and Bitcoin to keep it as anonymous as possible. Silk Road became a hub for selling drugs and other illegal items, attracting thousands of vendors and customers worldwide. He used his technical skills to create a platform that operated outside government oversight, making it easy and relatively safe for users to buy and sell narcotics and other contraband. The marketplace swiftly took off, far exceeding Ulbricht's initial expectations, though Silk Road's success drew attention not just from users, but also from law enforcement. To his friends and family, Ulbricht was an ambitious entrepreneur. Online, as Dread Pirate Roberts, he managed a vast digital empire. This alias was actually pretty clever, as it implied that Silk Road could survive beyond any one individual, as Dread Pirate Roberts is not just one man, but many, suggesting a rotating leadership.
And it has. I mean, it's still...
Ulbricht was the one caught in the end. The FBI's interest in Silk Road grew as it became more popular. Ulbricht made efforts to protect his identity.
And this is what I'm saying. So the FBI are the guys trying to plug up the loopholes, trying to find those things. And it's very interesting. I think about this a lot. Anytime I'm watching a movie or television that deals with government agencies, intelligence agencies, things like that, investigative agencies, I think about the way that those people are trained and the things that they're meant to do. You know, the idea is that you are an individual operating within this large organization, but the organization can become corrupted. And so your job is to do the right thing every single time. And if that means selling out the entire organization and taking down some giant scheme that's happening inside of it, and that's what you see as the right thing to do, they trust you that to know what the right thing is and to do that, even if it's disobeying orders. Even it's very interesting the way that this system is set up, because you can't just... I mean, look at the trials of Facebook. The people do not know what's going on. You cannot trust other people to have this idea. You have to be the one who understands and asserts your existence into this universe. It's the only thing that works, is to have individuals who are out here making their way through things. The group is dangerous. The group is a body of a head that is one or a couple of people, and that body follows the head. And so if the head becomes a problem, you can't expect it to all go okay. The only way to keep things okay is to break those people off from that body and to have them all operate individually. Now, you can still have camaraderie and friendship, but you have to be able to operate as yourself, because everything can go wrong, and you're the only one that you can actually really count on at the end of the day.
And the site's operations, but a few digital slip-ups led investigators to suspect him. Soon after, he was arrested in a public library in San Francisco, after he got up very briefly and left his laptop logged into Silk Road Administrator Panel, where the covert FBI agents were secretly watching him, and quickly snatched it. Though there are more sinister services, like hiring a hitman, 99% of these are just traps set up by the law to catch people attempting to engage in these legal acts. Like the unbelievable story of rentahitman.com. In 2005, Bob Innes was trying to think of a clever name for an IT company that plays on the word hit, as in website visits, and deciding to buy a domain for it. That's precisely what he did when he purchased rentahitman.com for a little over $9. Initially, Bob envisioned it as a catchy name for an IT venture with friends. However, it fizzled out and the website sat dormant. Fast forward to 2008, Bob decided to check the website's inbox, probably expecting spam or empty messages. Instead, he found himself staring at hundreds of emails from people who astonishingly thought rentahitman.com was a genuine service for hiring hitmen. While most
Wow.
messages seemed like bad jokes, the reality hit hard in 2010 when a woman from Canada, Helen, sent a disturbingly detailed request to eliminate 3 relatives in the UK over
like the
an
Dark Brotherhood,
inheritance
bro.
dispute. Realizing the severity, Bob didn't ignore Helen's message. He contacted the California police and forwarded the information to them. The police acted swiftly, involving Canadian authorities who arrested Helen, where she faced jail time in Canada before
Wow.
being extradited to the UK for other serious crimes. Post Helen's incident, Bob transformed rentahitman.com. The website now gleamed with satire, filled with humorous testimonials, fake information, and even a fictitious regulatory act. Despite these clear indicators of parody, the site continued to attract serious and sometimes dangerous inquiries. Assuming the alias Guido Finelli, Bob began a delicate dance of screening messages. He implemented a cooling-off period for clients, hoping they'd reconsider their intentions. Persistent or alarming requests were forwarded to law enforcement. This new mission turned the website into an unexpected tool for catching...
And this is that weird thing that happens to people in the world, right? That there's a certain mixture, and this is why I preach education to so many people, because there's a certain mixture of hopelessness and ignorance that breeds dangerous. And those people are very real. People who you would think of as being very harmless can become harmful if the right circumstances are heaped onto them for long enough. And there's no filter for that. And these people just walk around. That's why I'm always very careful to be nice to everybody. I know that I've said this a couple times in this video, but it's true. I a lot of times wonder if my kindness to other human beings is a self-defense mechanism that I've developed. And I say that it's just, it is natural for me. It is how but it's, a lot of the times it's because I think, well, you never know. I mean, I have been friends with people who have done some pretty astoundingly strange things. I mean, it's a public news story, but I don't really want to go into it here. But I mean, I lived next door to someone for many years, and we had many multi-hour long conversations, more than you could count. I mean, tons of them. And he went on to do some pretty bizarre things. Not anything that's directly super a crime or anything, but I mean, things that show me that he's probably somewhat of one of those people that I'm talking about.
Individuals with harmful intentions. Law enforcement is always on the lookout trying to clean up the dark web. They've shut down big illegal markets and have arrested a lot of people involved in illegal activities. But it's a big challenge because the dark web is designed to keep people anonymous. Police and other agencies are learning new ways to fight crime on the dark web. Despite its dark reputation, the dark web is not just a den of criminal activity. It's also a crucial tool for journalists, activists, and others who require anonymity to avoid persecution. Only a small fraction of Tor users actually visit these hidden services, and the content deemed illicit is only a sliver of what exists in this concealed space. Level 4 as well, stuff that...
100%. And I think that that's there are reasons to be anonymous in general that aren't horrible things. I mean, when you think about... Have you guys ever seen The Boys? The Boys is this interesting show where a group of terrorists are trying to save the world. And that's a really interesting way to look at it, but it's truly what that show's about. And, history remembers the winners. That's a thing that you have to keep in mind a lot of times, that if you find yourself being a part, and I really believe this, if you find yourself being a part of a really large group, a lot of times you have to really take a big look at what's going on within that group and be very honest with yourself, because there's a good chance that you are being complacent in horrific things that are going on. And I'm not saying that everyone needs to be an activist, but not going along with the status quo, if enough people do that, it can really save lives.
that is far more depraved than what we've already covered. The true depths of the
Let's
dark
go,
web.
dude. I don't
As
even know what he's going to
mentioned
talk about
earlier,
here.
you've probably heard of 4chan, an image board full of different kinds of content.
Yes.
Well, there's a site called 8chan, which is like a
yeah.
worse version of 4chan.
Aware of
Google
8chan.
removed it from
This
its
is where the QAnon stuff came from, right?
search results because it's filled with problematic content. 8chan.mo, the dark web version of 8chan, has worse stuff. Just like 4chan, you can browse various topics like anime and fitness, but 8chan.mo has a board called... From what I've seen, it's mostly men posting extremely disturbing videos and pictures with their pets, mainly dogs, in illegal and sickening ways that I'll just leave to your imagination. There were also sites in the realm of revenge, with Pink Meth being a major site that let people anonymously upload explicit photos of their exes without their permission.
Horrific.
Not only did the site feature these images, it also often included victims' personal info and links to their social media profiles. It actually initially started on the regular internet, but the site had to switch to the dark web later.
Dude, you have to be so careful with yourself. I don't want to get into it because I don't want to give away all of my secrets, but you have to be so careful with yourself on the internet. Educate yourself. Try to figure out how people get a hold of stuff. Try to figure out how to not let those things get out there. It's crazy. The people... Be skeptical. Just always be skeptical. Never assume that you know what's going on. Try to look at it from multiple angles. Try to figure out what could be happening. Try to have a healthy dose of skepticism in your thinking.
On. Although there was a way to ask for the photos to be removed, but this system was pretty much a sham. Victims had to write detailed accounts of how their photos got leaked, but these requests were basically mocked and blamed on the victims, resulting in the photos staying up. The site's shady dealings got on the radar of legal authorities. In November 2014, as part of Operation...
Well, that's like Is Anyone Up, right? I don't know if anyone remembers Is Anyone Up, but like that was a site that was borderline praised by people on both sides of the equation, but it was just so destructive to people's lives.
Anonymous, a big crackdown on illegal dark web activities, Pink Meth was shut down, along with over 24 other sites. Information on who ran Pink Meth and whether they faced any legal fallout is still not clear. There are also the legendary and spooky Red Rooms, but I couldn't find any in my search, and I honestly don't think they exist. A Red Room is supposed to be a secret site or service where viewers can watch live torture or murder, sometimes even telling the person doing it what to do, in a live chat like Twitch.
God.
And viewers might have to pay Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies to get in. But there's no solid proof, and many people, including myself, just think they're scary stories. Streaming live video without being caught on the dark web is technically hard, and it's pretty unlikely that someone who is depraved and dumb enough to kill someone has the technical know-how to set it all up, which makes the reality of these rooms pretty unlikely. That wraps up today's video.
You'd be surprised, man. I mean, there's been so many cases of ritualistic human sacrifice. This is a really strange tangent that I'm about to go on. But I mean, California was built in the occult. That was the whole thing that place came from. And there are so many astoundingly strange stories that come out of there that it's hard to write it all off as just hearsay. And I mean, those were really high-class, rich people who were doing, I mean, 1,000, 2,000 acre manors that were built and had these horrific stories of things that happened inside of them. And so I don't put any of that past people. I mean, in order to go your whole life without being caught as a serial killer, you would have to be incredibly intelligent. And I mean, what's the number? How many active, there's many active serial killers. $2,000 active serial killers are currently at large in the United States. Think about that. Think about how many per state that is. That's astounding. And they're not caught? And you think that they're dumb? I mean, twisted, definitely. Dumb, I don't think so. So, I don't think they make it easy for you to stumble upon these things, that's for sure.
If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing. And if you want something else to watch, check out the only other video I've made so far.
Cool. Very good video. High value mail. That was good. I appreciated that video. Y'all should go give that video a like. The world is spooky. There's a lot of things going on out there that we don't think about in the day to day, and I love thinking about this kind of stuff.